on this, let's bring in Mercedes Colwin. She's a trial attorney and legal analyst. Mercedes, always good to have you on. Can we just start off with what seems to be, I think, a big question on everybody's minds right now, and that is timing. What do you make of the timing of these cases? I mean, why are they just now ripe 3 years after January 6th?
That is such a great question, Markie. Frankly, it might just be because we're entering into the final stages, which will be the primary this summer. So that's why it's vital that these types of issues are determined, because one, the ballots, especially one in Colorado, the ballot has to be finalized this month in January of 2024. So it's vital that all the individuals that are on that ballot are fit for to be voted upon. And that's one of the arguments that the Colorado electors said is this timing, it's not political, rather, it's because our ballot, there is a specific time which the ballot has to be finalized. That's why the inquiry is starting now.
Yeah, a lot of people disagreeing with Colorado that this is not a political move here. Let's talk specifically about the constitutional clause at issue here, which, of course, you know, it's Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, and it states this: no person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector a president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States, who, having previously taken oath as an officer of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. I know that's a lot, but only fair to read that off this morning so everybody knows what we're talking about. Many seem to be arguing we should not apply this to President Trump because it's just too partisan, it's too divisive. But Mercedes, what's the legal constitutional argument that this does not apply to him?
Well, Markie, I'm so glad that you raised the actual language of the statute. It seems pretty clear that any office, if you are a participant of a rebellion or insurrection, you are not qualified to sit for office. So I'm not entirely certain why there are these intellectuals out there who are saying that somehow this doesn't apply to the president's position. Of course it does. I mean, if you look at the highest position in office, conceivable, it is the president's position. And if it can apply to the lower types of elections in terms of a senator or a congressman, how could it not possibly apply to the president? So it really is the language of the statute. It seems pretty clear. The one question is whether or not the U.S. Supreme Court will take this case up, because obviously you have to seek permission for the U.S. Supreme Court to look at this case to begin with. Two, there's no historical precedence on it. This would be the first time an individual seeking presidency or actually being disqualified on the basis of this section. But if you just look at the letter of the law and how it can be interpreted, it could easily apply to the president.
Yeah, and let's just assume this case is taken up by the U.S. Supreme Court, which it most certainly will be eventually. This court is headed by a conservative majority that really advocates originalism when interpreting the Constitution, such as, you know, with the Second Amendment, you know, most notably. Could Trump's candidacy survive a consistent originalist reading of this clause based on the facts of January 6th? What are you expecting from the highest court?
That's such a great question, Markie. Frankly, that is exactly what will happen. If we are talking about those who are the originalists and look at the letter of the law as it is written, it's not about how it can be applied, but what was the interpretation at the time. And as we just mentioned before, if you are applying it to lower elections, that these other elections that are actually specific and that are identified there, how could it not be applied to the president? It doesn't seem likely that if these originalists look at this particular statute, that they will conclude that the president can move forward on these ballots.
Yeah, when you mentioned, you know, when it was written at the time, what we would give for our founding fathers to be here right now and really tell us what they meant when they were writing this this amendment in the Constitution. As always, Mercedes Colwin, thanks for your time and your insights this morning. Appreciate it.
Well, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.